This program is proudly brought to you by Telecom Limited and Daytech.
Good night, viewers. I'm Malcolm Wyra, and welcome to another episode of Infocus. Tonight, we hold discussions with the NGO group, Project Sepik, to discuss its advocacy initiatives. Joining us for discussions, we have Mr. Emmanuel Penny, the Program Coordinator, and Ms. Mary Bonney, Executive Director. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Firstly, Emmanuel, could you give us the background in terms of the environment and geography, as well as the cultural and social setting of the area of the proposed Frida River mine and the broader Sepik River catchment area?
The Sepik River Basin is one of the last remaining freshwater ecosystem in the world, and the only one in the Asia-Pacific region that is intact and pristine. And the reason is because it is biologically diverse and culturally diverse. In fact, it is known by many as the second Amazon. It's this kind of ecosystem that we are protecting. And one of the reasons why we're working with communities to protect it too is that we believe in a different kind of development. And the proposed mine sits on most seismically active places in the world. And there is a high rainfall, and the soil structure and the morphology will not support anything as large as the proposed mine.
Now, the NGO group you represent is the Project Sepik group. Could you tell us a little about the organization?
Project Sepik is blessed with amazing leaders from Sepik who are intellectual and full of wisdom. It was set up by Sepiks in Port Moresby and the rest of Papua New Guinea, who came together knowing that their cultural and biological heritage was under threat, or that the safety of that place wasn't guaranteed given the different kinds of development that was taking place or proposed to be taking place. And so it was born out of a need and set up by Sepiks and other Papua New Guineans living in Port Moresby. And its main purpose is to ensure that people along the Sepik River and others in Sepik are able to voice their concerns and have their grievances, have their issues presented and articulated at all levels of the society. The organization is funded by several financial contributors, including Sepiks themselves. And we're based in Port Moresby and we're based in Wewak. We're staffed by six members of staff and have an amazing board, mostly women who are actively providing governance for us.
I understand volunteers make up quite a significant number of your organization's composition.
One of an interesting point that was raised by one of our board member was that the organization, Project Sepik, actually has an example of sustainability when it comes to maintaining people that work with it, given our work with our volunteers. Our volunteers are not just volunteers, they are leaders, respected leaders, leading their villages, different communities which they are part of, and leading along the river and working with everyone from the headwaters all the way down to the delta of Sepik River. And they do this without payment, without anything, because they initially wanted to be part of the campaign simply because it was their home and they're doing this for their home, not for anything else. And so they've been the backbone of this work.
Now, Mary, I understand the organization Project Sepik has undergone a transition from a purely advocacy-based organization to a legal advocacy group. How has this improved your organization's ability?
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Malcolm. I guess, with advocacy, I could say it has evolved from a lower level advocacy to a higher level advocacy. It still does advocacy in all of its, the different programs. I think the thing to point out here is that if you note from Mr. Penny's, it started in a small organization first and was focused on awareness, to the people along the whole river, from the lower right up to the upper. And the focus was awareness on the implications of the mine and especially on the importance of the river. Biodiversity-rich area. We have maintained the support of all the people living along the river in the East Sepik province. And the organization has seen the need to expand in order to cater for the next phase of advocacy. And this is now moving on to the legal advocacy now. And the thing that we'd like to ensure that, Papua New Guineans know is that we want to ensure that that development is responsible. And this is, and if there's a need to actually move up to a level of advocacy that warrants that, then Project Sepik needs to expand to ensure that.
Ms. Mary Bonney, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
We now go for a quick break. When we return, we are joined by Cheyenne Wider, Communications and Research Officer at Project Sepik. Stay with us. Welcome back to Infocus. Joining us for this session, we have Mr. Cheyenne Wider, Communications and Research Officer at Project Sepik. Cheyenne, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Now, firstly, Cheyenne, have you cited the proposed Frida River Mines environmental impact statement? If so, how have you found it?
Yes, I have cited, did some reading on the EIS, and there's a lot of questions that can be raised after reading, or there's a lot of questions that needs to be sort of answered when you read the EIS. So there's about 3 parts to the EIS. There's the part A, which is the executive summary, and then the part B, which is the main report of the EIS, and then the part C, which is the appendix. So there are, like I said, there's a lot of questions that once you start reading the EIS, going into the details of the EIS, there are questions that would pop up in your mind regarding some of the statements that's being put out in the EIS. Yes.
Are you able to provide some of the notable
examples? I think there's a lot of points in the EIS that raises questions, but I'll just touch on some of the things that I find it quite concerning. The first part of when you start reading or going through the EIS, the first thing that we notice is the 7-year implementation phase of the project. So what the EIS states is that there will be a 7-year implementation phase of the project, which would reduce the water quality of the Frida River and then the Sepik River. And then there would be suspended solids, species not tolerant to living in high sedimentation. They would be the ones that would die off first. So things of that nature has been stated in the EIS. Now, regarding the 7-year implementation phase, 5 years of the 7-year implementation phase would be focused on building the integrated storage facility, or the ISF dam. So why this is important to our fight is that even before the mine is being built, or even before the ISF is being built, there will be an drastic environmental damage that will start to occur even before the development commences. Now, that is in the 7-year implementation phase. So when they start building the dam, the EIS states that there will be soil dumps in which the overburden and the waste from the construction will be dumped there. And the EIS also states that there will be free erosion of those soil dumps, and it will drain into two of the creeks, Ok Binai Creek and Ubai Creek. And those creeks will be eventually drained into the Frida River, which will eventually end up in the Sepik River. Now, the EIS also states that up to 4 million tons of sedimentation will be eroded into the Sepik River, the Frida River, and then eventually the Sepik River. So 4 million tons will not happen after the ISF is completed, or after the dam is completed, or during the phase of mining or the operation, the development operation. It will happen at the first construction phase, the implementation phase of the project. That is the first, the concerning part of the EIS. The second concerning part of the EIS is the increase in the concentration of dissolved copper and aluminum in the river. So this, the copper and aluminum can be classified as heavy metals, and the EIS clearly states that there will be an increase, but it does not state the impact of that increase of copper and aluminum concentration to the people downstream. Yeah, so the EIS specifically talks about that it will be an increase up at the Frida River, upper Frida River area. There will be soil, high amounts of sedimentation in the upper Frida River area. But when you look at the Frida River, it's a tributary to the Sepik River, and whatever goes down at the head of the river will eventually end up in the sea. So within that 7-year phase, the sedimentation up at the Frida will eventually end up in the sea. So that's very concerning for us. And it's not just for us, but it's for the people along the river. They drink the river, they get fish in the river. All their lives is centered around the river. And if there's high concentration of heavy metals in there, there's a high sedimentation in the river, then it would drastically affect their lives. And it's not going to be happening when the development occurs. It will be happening just in the construction phase. Yeah. So that's the first thing about the EIS that raises a lot of questions for us. The second thing is the perpetuality risk of the dam. So the dam and the development and the mining will be, or the mining will last for 33 years. 33 years, and the dam is estimated to last for 100 years. So the question that would pop up in our minds when we think of the dam and when we think of the mining, after the mine has closed and the company is left, who will be responsible for the mine or the upkeep of the dam? Maintaining the dam and making sure that it doesn't break, or the tailings don't spill into the river. Who will be responsible for the upkeep of that after the company is left? There is no specification in the EIS that states that, okay, after we leave, then this particular group will come and take over from us, and then they will be the ones responsible for maintaining it and taking over from where we've left. The other thing is, if the company leaves and if the dam is not maintained, or if they choose someone to come and go and maintain the dam, but if they don't maintain the dam and if the dam breaks, who's responsible? How will the company will not be responsible because it's past the 33 years. We've done our thing and we've gone, and it's not our problem anymore, it's your problem. So,
has there been a dam break analysis statement presented to local landowners?
In the EIS, there hasn't been a dam break analysis. We hear that MRA has that analysis. We also hear that the company has that analysis, but in the EIS, there is no dam break analysis. Like, what if the dam breaks? What would happen? The potential implications of the dam. And then the ISF, the integrated storage facility, will store, will have multiple functions. One is it will be a tailing storage facility. And then the other thing is that it will provide for the hydroelectric project that will be happening.
So I'd like to add to what Cheyenne shared about the dam break analysis. What is critical for anyone around the world in relation to such a development would be around dams, and to what extent can this dam be able to provide the service to store the waste, and also it must be a critical document or part of the EIS, the environmental impact statement. Some call it the proposal to build a mine. What the company did was it did not include the dam break analysis in the EIS. So when experts from all around the world, other Papua New Guineans who were concerned about this, started unpacking the EIS, they were not able to see the dam break analysis. We also had 10 UN special rapporteurs from the United Nations. They also unpacked the EIS and also asked the question, where is the dam break analysis? And then last year, we laid a complaint through the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The OECD is like the mothership of all transnational corporations around the world. It provides standards and guidelines for transnational corporations to be able to work within legal standards and legal requirements and be compliant. What the OECD found out after our complaint is that the dam break analysis was also not included. And like Cheyenne stated, we know that, we heard that the dam break analysis is with MRA and it's with the company. Our question is, why are they not making this available for all Papua New Guineans and concerned citizens around the world to be able to see?
Thank you, gentlemen. We now go for a quick break. Join us on the other side for more discussions. Welcome back. You're watching In Focus. Now, Emmanuel, what would be some of the cascading social impacts of the proposed Frida River mine based on your assessments?
In our work in the last 5 years along the Sepik River, we've heard consultations with all the people along the river, and everyone expressed the same thing. And the very first thing that they expressed has been what they see around them, the Porgera gold mine, Oak Teddy, Bougainville. And the question is, if this is going to happen, how do we benefit from this? And these questions are genuine because there has not been a success story around mining, logging, and other large economic developments in the country. Who benefits? So that's a critical question that we've been trying to help locals along the river and those others within the mine site to be able to express that so that they can be able to benefit. And given experiences, we have a strong belief that not a lot of people will benefit. It'll be the shareholders and whoever is on the fringes of those conversations. The other is, of course, critical concern faced by everyone around the world. It's climate change and its impact. We're not saying it will come. We're living in climate change. We're experiencing it on a daily basis. Given the level of, given the size of the operation that is being proposed and the level of destruction that we assume will take place, as Cheyenne has explained, and scientists from all over the world who had unpacked the EIS and looked at the development proposal, and all others who are concerned about this, who spent time to try and understand this, they are telling us that Papua New Guinea, its rainforest is the third largest carbon sink in the world, and much of it and the most diverse part with lot more hardwood that is able to capture and store carbon is found in the Upper Sepik area. If that was to go, then we lose that ability to be able to store carbon. It's not just for the people along the river. It's not just for people of the Sepik region and Papua New Guinea. We're talking about, solving an issue that everyone in the world is facing. And then with the loss of other plants and animal species, there are animals and insects and plants that are yet to be discovered. Why can't we be in the forefront of that? Lastly, the cultural diversity. Time you born lo Papua New Guinea, blood blue you down, spirit blue stop lo ground. Now, spirit blue get a tumuna blue you, no all spirit blue antap lo boost, na spirit blue wara all get a stop lo dislahap. And that forms the basis of the Papua New Guinean and the Melanesian personhood. It forms the wholesomeness of every one of us in Papua New Guinea. And it is explained by our culture and the way of life that we live. When that goes, you're looking at Papua New Guineans or people along the river will be like zombies. They'll just walk away with no spirit, no that intact human thing inside them. That culture would be lost. And as we stated, or as I stated earlier, Sepik River is also one of the most culturally diverse, and the Tourism Promotion Authority in Papua New Guinea has images and promotes the culture of Sepik to attract people from around the world because they understand the diversity and the amazing and remarkable heritage that we've been able to carry on from 50,000 years ago.
Now, Cheyenne, does the environmental impact statement document any resettlement plans for the affected communities?
Okay, the environmental impact statement mentions resettlement. It actually mentions resettlement plans, but it stated that it has options for resettlement identified through consultations, and final locations has yet to be agreed. It also states that resettlement will be resettled villages would be provided housing to a greater standard than the current facilities that they have right now. So the question is, what is the greater standard that you are trying to give to the people? The people already have land. They already have their own land. They already have their forests. They already have gold in their land. They enjoy the fullness of the environment and their land. And then you're saying that the EIS states that it doesn't know where they will go yet, but it will provide housing to a larger standard. So you're removing them from their land and you're giving them a house to live in. How is that a higher standard than what they have?
The EIS does not specify in any form a resettlement plan, so there is none in the EIS, but it does state that they have not gotten the consent for resettlement plan from the people around the area, and they have not had a consultation. They will do that sometime later.
Finally, Emmanuel, what is the fundamental premise of the Supreme Sukundumi Declaration?
So in order to hold the fundamental premise behind the Supreme Sukundumi Declaration is to be able to use a governance system that works for the people. We understand that our laws and the structures around it were from our colonizers. It was written by white, old, slave-owning capitalists. So with this kind of people that are writing these laws, it will be based on their values and principles around how they see the world. And these values and principles and how they see the world is totally different from the way we see the world. Understanding that, and also understanding that our Constitution and some aspects of the organic law and laws in Papua New Guinea allows for Papua New Guineans to live as Melanesians and explain and interpret their lives within the legal framework. Based on that understanding, we were able to say, in terms of managing land and resources, I think the laws allow for traditional customary laws on land, because much of the land is locked with the traditional landowners. And so based on this, we were able to identify that the house tambaran, so the spirit house, or some call it house boy, in my language is called gego. They are actually the parliament houses of individual nations along the river before colonization, and that we can hold them together. While each villages have their own sort of spirits or the way they explain their governance work. For example, Karau, Grand Chief's village, they call it Kup, and it means the same thing. It's that greatness of that governance that hold together, and that greatness of the government includes the people who are yet to arrive from the future, people who have passed away and are present in different forms, and the environment around them, and the spiritual beings that are around them. So it's all locked in. However, Kup is not as widely known as Sukundimi. So when we went around, we said, it's the same thing. What do you call in your language? They call the language. Said, okay, do you know Sukundimi? So we connected all the villages. So it's the law and understanding how people can come together, and we call it Supreme Sukundimi. And they all came together for one cause, and that is to protect their river from harm. And the river is not just a river as a resource for them. Their river is either, depending on the clan, could be a clan member, or it could be a spirit, or it could be a person on its own. So there is different reverence of the Sukundimi and different way people relate to the river. And so that's all connected with the Supreme Sukundimi Declaration. And the house tambarans that were consulted have declared the mine be banned.
Emmanuel, Penny, and Shine Waide, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Thank you. It was a great opportunity to be able to share the voices of the Sepik.
Well, viewers, that's all the time we have for this edition of Infocus. Do join us again next week, Monday, for another edition. Till then, good night.
This program was proudly brought to you by Telecom Limited and Daytech.